Did you know that there are several really basic common things that you can double check in your manifesting right now to see if you're actually doing the basic manifesting steps correctly? Well, there are. And there is a very big common reason why a lot of people are not getting their manifestation. And it is not that big of a deal once you figure out what it is. It's super easy to fix. And I'm going to share that with you today in this particular video. I'm also going to walk you through exactly how to identify it if you're doing it. And you can use this for any manifestation, regardless of how long you've been working on the manifestation. Double check this immediately because it happens to the best of us. It happens to me sometimes, and I like to actually sit down and write it out. But first, my name is Amy. I am a manifesting coach. And if you are interested in the content of my channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified when I actually upload new videos. Also, I do have sort of a manifesting lifestyle, and I post about the things that I manifest on my Instagram account, which you can check in the link below, or you can search as Illuminating Joy or Amy Westmoreland. But this is actually a very special video. I'm doing a collaboration with Kennie Kaye. You might be wondering why this person's name is over here. So Kennie is this really amazing, fun girl that I found out had done a shout out to me in one of her videos about the law of attraction. So I contacted her to say thank you and to basically say, like, we should do a collaboration video together. We're two YouTubers, let's do it. And we are doing two videos, one for my channel and one for hers, about the same topic, about this big reason that you might be struggling with your manifesting, but it's actually a simple fix. So she's going to talk about it on her channel, which you can check out. Please subscribe to her as well. You can check her out in the link below. I've tagged her down there. And we are then, at the end of this video, it's going to be both of us, and we're going to be sharing some stories as like a conversation about the times that we got tripped up with this particular thing to give you guys a heads up of how it actually works. So let's just jump right into this. For my regular viewers, this is going to be a little bit longer of a video than I have than normal, but for sure this information is super, super helpful. And this is the #1 skill I think all manifestors should have. And that is being able to identify and self-assess that if you are actually focusing on the desired outcome, or if you're accidentally focusing on the don't want, the problem, or the thing that, or something else, something that is currently in your experience now, like the absence of it. So let's get right into this. Okay, so when I coach people, I always double check this first with them because you would be surprised. I have done it so many times. I think I'm focusing on what I want and I'm seeing no results, and I'm trying and I'm trying to, like, you know, get it to work, and I'm doing my steps the right way, and nothing's happening and nothing's happening. Whenever this occurs, I always double check this with people. I just very quickly, I'm like, let's look at something. So I get out a piece of paper. So this is a piece of paper exercise. I do recommend you have paper. This is a drawing exercise. Don't worry, it's just circles. So I would not try to do this on your phone. This is very helpful to do with pen and paper. And then what I do is I draw two circles. So this is the equivalent to the don't want list that I have in some other videos, which I'll link down below that you can you know, look at as well. There's lots of different ways to do this. This is one of my favorite. So basically you draw two circles. Now, whatever you focus on the most, right, with the way the law of attraction works and your consciousness being pushed out works, is what you will end up getting, the dominant. So you can actually sort of ping pong between the two and still get one because it's what you dominantly believe, focus on, accept as true. So don't be afraid to accidentally focus on the wrong thing, and also don't be afraid to focus on the wrong thing or the thing you don't want for this exercise. Odds are focusing on it for a minute or two is not going to hurt anything if you were actually focusing correctly in the first place. And if you haven't been focusing correctly in the first place, then you're already focused on the wrong thing. So let's just get that cleared up. Great. So you have your piece of paper. Now, people word this differently, and it's also worded a little differently depending on how your situation, your actual circumstances are. So let me put my cap down there. I write what's currently going on into the first circle. So I would write, let's say you have an argument with someone. right? You have an argument with someone. It doesn't matter if it's romantic or work or whatever. So you have an argument. So you write that in there. You write the circumstances in there. I just abbreviate it to be short, but you can go wild with it. Now, if you are trying to solve this and you have no knowledge of this over here, you are not going to be able to manifest very easily, because you're not supposed to focus on this to overcome it, to solve it, to resolve it. That's not how manifesting works. That's how problem solving works. This is not manifesting, not so much a problem solving thing. Although I do love problem solving, and it has its place in my life, but not here. Okay, so argument. So what happens is, this is what you don't want. This would be the don't want. It would also be what people call the problem. If you've ever heard the term delete the problem, that's what this means. So this is the don't want and the problem bubble, right? So if you are thinking about this, these are the images in your mind. This is why you're not getting what you want. You have to shift off of this. The images in your mind cannot match this any longer when you start focusing correctly. So what you do is you write the equal opposite here of what it is you actually want. So you would write we made up. Ah, how wonderful. Now, it's okay if you write we make up, we have an understanding. The wording is going to be very specific to you, but I like to put it a little bit in the past tense to imply that it's already finished. It's already happened. So we made up. So now, can you see how this is what you want? And this would be the solution. I spelled solution wrong, so forgive me. I didn't spell it wrong. Okay, so this would be what you want, or the solution. So you have to focus on this. And what ends up happening is people don't realize that they're spending all of their mental processes focusing on that. So this is one of the biggest reasons you may not be getting your manifestation, even if you're doing everything correctly. Because if you're doing everything correctly, all the steps correctly, while this is your focus, that was amazing. While this was your focus, you are really, really weighing your energy down with a ton of resistance. This is why you have resistance, because you're thinking about this. So what you do, yes, this is interesting. Neville Goddard says, dare to assume the wish fulfilled. So this would be the wish fulfilled we made up. He says dare to do it because it takes a little bit of courage to stop looking at this and actually shift your focus to this. At first, you just do it mentally. You just do it in your imagination. You just do it visually. And then as you start to see it, you start to believe it more. You start to connect to it more, that sort of thing. So he says dare to assume the wish fulfilled, because he knew it's hard to get people to switch their thinking. We're sort of hypnotized by this, and it holds our attention, but that's why you might not be getting what you want. So again, you may be thinking, well, I know I want us to make up, but we had an argument. If anything after the word but is coming up, you can write that down as well. So you could say I know we had an argument, but, or you could say, I know that I'm supposed to focus on we made up, but I'm really mad at them. You're still focusing on the argument then. So you have to become aware of your actual thinking process, the images you have. Close your eyes right now and think about your desire. So we're going to walk through this together for your particular desire. And then I'm going to give you some examples of other things that this is really helpful for. So think about your desire. Notice the images in your mind. If you're driving or walking, you can do this with your eyes open. Do you see a positive, happy image that matches what would be in the second bubble here? Because if you don't, if you see the problem, you are more than likely dominantly focusing on, accidentally, because you wouldn't have done it on purpose, you're focused on the wrong thing. You're focused on what you don't want. Be brutally honest with yourself. This is the time to be honest with yourself with no judgment. The one thing I love to do, and you can open your eyes if you've already got the idea of what you're actually focusing on. The one thing I like to do first is just be like, whoops, I forgive myself. I would not have been focusing on this on purpose if I had caught it before. I'm going to totally let myself off the hook and forgive myself. It was an accident. I didn't mean to do it. It's okay. Now, at this point, the viewers that are watching, you're going to fall into one of two camps at this point. The first group of you is actually going to be like, yeah, I am focusing on what I really want. Well, congratulations. That's a skill you want to develop for all sorts of manifestations. Double check this with every manifestation because, like I said, it's a skill that I've developed and I'm really good at, and I still sometimes find myself after a few weeks or a month being like, why hasn't that worked yet? And then I draw my circles and I'm like, oh, that's why. And then the second camp of people are going to be people who realize right here and now you're not focusing on the solution. Now, don't panic. We haven't gotten to how to focus on the solution yet. We're just actually getting really clear about this is an easy fix because it's a focus issue. So this is really good news. Sometimes all you need to do for some people is switch your focus, and you don't really have to do anything else. You'll feel some sort of relief. You'll feel some sort of click. You'll be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then you will just go about your life and the manifestation will happen. For those of you that are a little bit worried, oh no, I've been focusing on the wrong thing. What do I do? Well, again, number one, forgive yourself. You wouldn't have done it on purpose. You didn't mean to do it. Number two, I'm going to ask you just the hardest question. People have such a hard time with this question, but I'm going to ask it to you. Be honest with yourself. Are you willing? Are you willing to give up the unwanted focus? Now, most people think, well, of course I am, but sometimes it's hard. It can be hard, especially if there's other people involved or if we feel like we've been wronged in some ways. So be honest with yourself. If you're willing now to shift it, that's fine. If you're not, again, forgive yourself. Give yourself a little bit of time. Be gentle with yourself. It's okay. You know, sometimes what I'll do is I'll set a timer and I'll be like, I'm going to give myself 5 more minutes to stew in it and just to be totally justified in why I think I should be focusing on what happened. And then when the timer goes off, I shift it. But some people need a little more time, especially if your circumstances are, you know, in your situation, a little more extreme than just trying to manifest something like a cup of coffee. So again, I'm speaking to a very general audience. There's going to be all sorts of people watching, people who just want to practice manifesting, people who are working on the biggest thing of their lives, people who, you know, want their relationships to work out, people who are in need of money. So again, you want to figure out how to apply it in your situation to the best of your ability. So now, the next thing I want to do, after you've forgiven yourself, if you're in this camp of, whoops, been focusing on the wrong thing, and you have decided that you're willing to shift it. So you want to draw your own circles and write down what it is you're focusing on and then what the opposite is. And then you want to basically, I like to fold the piece of paper so I can't see that side anymore. And I fold it and I kind of keep it near me. And now I work through my 4 steps in the manifesting process. And sometimes this solves a lot of resistance. Focusing on what you don't want is a form of resistance. So sometimes this is the resistance that you clear and your manifestation happens. So I would be like, step 1, I want to focus on this. Now let me give you, before I walk through the 4 steps, some examples of other things this works for. Well, it works for everything, but these are things you can practice with in your daily life that are actually really fun. If you end up with your shoelaces or a necklace chain or anything that's tied in a knot and it's really hard to get out, stop, put it down for a second, close your eyes and imagine it untied. Imagine the knot undone. Then go back to it, and then that's how it works. So this technique works to practice with all these little things. If you have a lid that you can't open, I know all you guys out there are like, I can get my lid open. Well, I can't get my lid open sometimes. So I will put it down and I will close my eyes and I will imagine the lid off. It's already off. And then for some reason, my body manages to get the lid open. If you have something that's locked, you can imagine it unlocked. I know people are like, how does that work? Well, I believe in parallel reality, so I just move into the reality where it's unlocked. That's a different video. Okay, if you're stuck, something is stuck, you're trying to like pull something out of something like a box or like something out of your closet or whatever, you could imagine already having it out. So again, you're shifting your focus from the problem and you're imagining the end result. Now this works, Neville Goddard calls it living in the end. And this is, again, one of the strongest, most important skills you can develop as a manifestor. The more you practice it, the more quickly you will automatically move your mental attention away from the problem, away from the absence, onto what it is you want, to the actual solution. Okay, so now I take my little piece of paper and I walk through my 4 steps. I walk through my 4 steps with a piece of paper, and I take about 5 or 10 minutes to do it. So I would be like, step 1, I've gotten clear about what I want. Now I have to somehow focus on it. People ask me how to focus on it. This is personal preference. So I either write it out, journal it, I intend it, I close my eyes and I visualize, I focus. Sometimes I do it with my eyes open. For me, it kind of depends on how much time I have, where I'm at, and what mood I'm in. So if I'm like really chill and I've got time, I'll like sit down and write it all out and listen to some nice music. But if I'm like in the car, you know, I just do it quickly in my head. So again, play around with focusing. But if you really want to do this in a way that you feel you have focused correctly, take the time to close your eyes, don't have any distractions, and imagine the end result. Now, here's the most important part about imagining the end result. You must imagine it's already happened. It's not happening. You can do that, that's okay, but I'm sort of in agreement with Neville Goddard that it's better to imagine it's already happened. So when I do the lid, I don't imagine opening the lid, I imagine the lid on the counter. It's already off. I don't imagine untying the knot is already undone. Do you see what I'm saying? So, like I had to snake my bathroom, my bathtub the other day, and I had never done it before, and the stopper had been put in by a man who was a plumber, I'm guessing. Some man did it at some point, or maybe a woman. I don't know, someone who was stronger than me did it. And I went to unscrew it, and I couldn't do it. It had a bolt, and I didn't have the right screwdriver. I have an insane amount of screwdrivers. Don't ask me. I just do, and none of them fit. And I was huffing and puffing, and I was trying to get it undone, and I finally just stopped and put everything down, and I was like, I just imagined it undone, laying on the floor of the tub. I walked away. I came back, put my hand on it. It has a bolt, put my hand on it, started to turn it, and then suddenly it moved and it worked, and I was able to get it undone. So again, the how is never your business. You shift from the problem to the solution. The middle part is taken care of for you. That's how I manifest, at least. Okay, so I would get really clear about what it is I want, step 1, and I would, based on my personal preference, close my eyes and focus on it having already been done. This is something you have to figure out for yourself. What does that mean in your situation? Sometimes it's super simple, like, oh, the knot is tied, I will imagine it untied. The door is locked, I'll imagine it unlocked. Things like that. I'm not getting a text message, I'll imagine a text message. But other times it's more complicated, especially with relationships. Like, well, should I imagine that we're back together? And should I imagine that we're married? Or should I? So sometimes I will actually take time to figure out what I'm going to imagine before I imagine. I call it like pre-work. And for bigger topics in my life, I sometimes take 2 or 3 days to really figure it out first. So don't be afraid of refining and editing what you're focusing on. It's also all right to shift what you're focusing on as you move along and get better ideas. But as long as it's in this bubble, not this bubble, you're fine. Okay, so I do my visualization, my scripting, my writing, whatever, and then I come out of that and I immediately double check the next 3 steps for me. Someone asked me in one of the comments, and I'm sorry, I forgot who it was, but what is the purpose of my 4 steps? So step 1 is the only one that's needed for all of manifesting. That's the focusing. I have 4 steps, and you might be like, well, why do you have 4 steps if the other 3 aren't needed? Because I have determined that the mind gets tripped up in very specific and common habitual ways that after you focus, it interferes after you've done the focusing. So my step 2, 3, and 4, that was funny. My steps 2, 3, and 4 are to help your mind not interfere with what you just imagined. So my step 2 is double check. I only answer with yes, no, or maybe. The question is, do I believe that what I just imagined in my focusing, and only that, do I believe that is possible that it can happen for me? Yes or maybe, you're good to go. If the answer is no, I take the answer no and I put it into the releasing of resistance. So even if it's no, you're still good. You're just going to release resistance around it. So why do I have this step? Believing it's possible, because you don't have to believe it will happen. And I feel like a lot of people waste a ton of time trying to believe it will happen. Sometimes you will. You'll absolutely be like, I know it's going to happen. But if you're not there, don't try to get there. If you are there, leave it alone. Just be there. So all you have to do is have a little bit of belief. I think, the Bible says you only need faith the size of a mustard seed to move a mountain, to tell that mountain to move, and it will move. Faith is belief in the unseen. So that's the belief in the unseen here, right? Do you know how big a mustard seed is? It's really, really, really tiny. So at no point does it say, get more belief, get more faith. No, you need faith the size of a mustard seed. Now, you don't have to have faith in the outcome. This is also very important. Belief and faith, I'm using them interchangeably here. You only have to have belief or faith that it's possible that it can happen for you. And it doesn't matter why you think that, because if it's because you believe in the divine, you believe in the orchestration ability, you believe in yourself, it doesn't matter. This is why this one question is really helpful, because it sort of covers all of the reasons you might think it's possible. So if you don't believe it's possible at all, you have some resistance, so you put that in step 3. If you do believe it's possible, you're good to go, and now your mind knows, I don't have to focus on worrying about the belief side of it anymore. That's like, check, double check that, and you don't have to worry about that. So then I go to step 3, which is releasing resistance. I write my resistance out. And so the first one I would put in there is, no, I don't believe it's possible. And then I'd be like, it hasn't happened before. This situation is very difficult. I don't know anyone else who's ever had it. And I take time and I take everything in my head. You don't have to. It's very helpful to have space for yourself to think and let them bubble up in your mind and then write them down. Write them all down first before you do anything. Just let them sort of free flow. Whatever comes up in your mind, even if you don't think it's relevant, if it came up, write it down, because you want to release as much resistance as possible. So I do that as a step 3. Then, as you all know, if you've seen any of my other videos, I allow it. I'm like, yes, I absolutely don't think it's possible. That's where I'm at right now. Who wouldn't think it was impossible? I absolutely doubt that this person would change their mind. Sure do. I absolutely believe that. I think that. I doubt it. I fear it. I whatever the word is that you have. I'm absolutely afraid I'm not going to get what I want. That's correct. That's how I feel. I own it. I read through the list after I've made it, and I fully own it and allow it. Now, this is easy for me to do. I have a lot of experience. In order to do this, you have to suspend judgment towards yourself while you're doing it. Please do not beat yourself up in the middle of this. This is a clearing exercise, so forgive yourself. Whoops, again, I wouldn't have done this on purpose. I wouldn't have had these thoughts on purpose. So you're forgiving yourself and taking ownership of them. Then my little loophole is I just sort of work through and just tell myself, like, I can still get what I want even though these things have happened, because I know that what I focused on in step 1 is what produces the manifestation. So am I going to stop here and think all of these things are a problem, or am I going to move forward? Now, sometimes you do have to actually release resistance, especially if it's a bigger deal. I will discuss that in another video at another time. I'm just trying to cruise through all of this for this situation. But then I immediately move on to step 4, which is to detach. Detaching is just being honest with yourself that you do not need this. You don't need it. Do you know the things that you need? Think about need in a survival sense. You need food, water, oxygen, sleep, and shelter, which would be clothing and protection from the harsh elements of the weather. It's perfectly fine to know that you want something. So all I do at the last step is I affirm to myself, I do not need this. I will be absolutely okay without it. I'm going to be unhappy. I might be happy. I might trust that I'll be okay. I say all sorts of different things to myself, but I'm like, I don't need it. I want it. And it's perfectly fine to want it, or I love it, or whatever. I say something to get the need out of the mix, because it's the need that's a problem. Need implies you don't have it. Need implies you will not be okay without it. And that is not true. You will emotionally find a way to be okay without it. Don't worry, you won't have to get there necessarily. This is just to release the need. Because I know a lot of people have said that they are very frustrated with body image and stuff like that. You don't emotionally need your body to change to find a way to feel better. You want your body to change to find a way to feel better. But when you realize you don't technically need it to feel better, you will be okay, and then you can manifest it. So again, it doesn't matter what the scenario is. The only things you need to stay alive are those 5 things I listed off: food, water, sleep, oxygen. Anything else is something that you can find. You can find a way to be okay without it. Now, again, you're not going to have to get to that point necessarily before the manifestation. This is to needing something blocks the manifestation because it implies you don't have it. So this is a step to get your mind to just disengage from the process for a few minutes to move on to something else. So I also have sort of a little after thing. Sometimes when I'm manifesting, I will have something planned that I'm going to do that's completely unrelated to the topic or manifesting immediately after doing the manifesting. So I get clear about what I want, I focus on it, I check my belief it's possible, yes it is, I release my resistance, I make sure that I've detached a little bit, and then I get up and I put it down and I walk away and I go do something else. You have to mentally engage in a different activity. You don't have to like the activity, it doesn't have to be a happy activity. It's just let your mind move on to something else. You can come back to this twice a day, just like any sort of hygiene habit. It's perfectly fine to touch base with it daily. You can come back to it a few times a week, but you want to give your mind as much time to disengage from it, because that's where you might run into trouble, because your mind is going to be like, yes, but how is it going to happen? Yes, but what am I going to do? So pick a mentally engaging activity to do afterwards. Sometimes I have like paperwork to do, and I will be like, I'm going to do my paperwork afterwards, because I know my mind will have to let go of the manifestation I'm working on in order to crunch some numbers type of thing. Or I go to the grocery store or something like that. So keep in mind, there's all these little tricks to help support you doing this correctly. But back to the topic. One of the biggest reasons you're not getting your manifestation is because you are not actually focusing on what you want. You are accidentally focusing on what you don't want and you don't know. So again, don't want, problem, write in there what's really going on, and then be honest with yourself. If you're not honest with yourself, it's not going to help. Be honest with yourself with no judgment and forgive yourself. And then write the opposite, which would be the solution, what has already happened, and that's what you want, or the solution. That's, people refer to it differently. And then you must run through the manifesting process of visualizing on this, don't imagine this, and don't imagine resolving this, don't imagine fixing this. Don't do that. Imagine it's the opposite of something. It's like already happened. So that's what I wanted to say, because I think this is something that everybody can double check right here, right now. And you can use it for all of your manifestations, regardless of how big they are. And I think it will really help a lot of people, because you may not be aware that you're doing it, which is what Kennie and I are going to talk about. We're going to actually talk about a couple stories where we weren't aware. Well, I know my stories about when I wasn't aware I was doing it. And it's actually the eye bag story that I think I mentioned in a video a couple years ago, and people have asked me if I was ever going to actually circle back and tell the story, and that's exactly what I'm going to say when I talk to her. So stay tuned, and again, make sure you check out her channel. And yeah, sorry this video is so long, but whatever, you guys definitely, I'm sure, want the help, so focus on what you want. Okay, so I am here with Kennie Kaye, and if you're on my channel, welcome, and if you're on Kennie's channel, hi everybody. We were talking the other day about what we just put previously in our videos about how you could accidentally be focusing on the problem or what you don't want, and we both have success stories that when we resolved this, it worked for us. So we wanted to share those in a conversation style with you, so you can see how it works, right? Yeah.
So like how we blocked ourselves and then how we unblocked ourselves to get the manifestation.
Yeah, exactly. And this is actually a really easy fix once you identify it and can sort of flip it around. So I'm going to go first and tell my funny story. It's my eye bag story. And what ended up happening was I already knew how to manifest. I was really good at manifesting, but I didn't write it down. And so in the earlier part of my video on my channel, I talk about writing it down, and this is why it's helpful to do that.
Okay.
I was like, I'm just going to wing it with my manifesting in my head. So I woke up one day and I had these just very pronounced eye bags under my eyes. I had no idea where they came from. So like a regular person, I thought maybe I didn't get enough sleep. I didn't drink enough water. I used some cream and concealer, and I did this for several days and nothing seemed to work. I even did Google research. I watched makeup tutorials. I'm like, this will just go away in a few days, not a big deal. And when it didn't, and I couldn't figure out what was going on, I ended up deciding like, oh, I'll just manifest that my eye bags go away.
Yeah. The answer to everything is manifesting.
Yeah. Everything is manifesting. And what's interesting is since I didn't write it down, I just in my mind was like, I'll just manifest the eye bags go away. And I didn't realize I was focusing on the eye bags, which is the problem, which is why it didn't work.
Yeah.
So over the course of the next 2 months, I got frustrated and I didn't understand why it wasn't manifesting. I kept going through my steps. I'm like, I'm doing the steps right. Why isn't it working?
Yeah.
But my original focus was on the problem. And I called my esthetician. She does my facials. She had me come over. She was like, it'll be fine. We'll fix it. And she tried concealer and cream. She couldn't fix it. She's like, oh, that looks worse now. So I started to panic a little bit. And then one day, after 2 months, I just was looking in the mirror and a light bulb went off in my head. And I was like, oh my God, I have yet to once actually correctly focus on or even identify the outcome that I want. I'm trying to get rid of eye bags, which is the problem.
Yeah, like focus on the end result. You know?
Yeah, the end result, exactly. So as I'm looking in the mirror and I can see them in the mirror, I realize I want them to go back to normal. I want the skin under my eyes to look normal, radiant, healthy, glowing, beautiful, whatever. And it just, all my resistance dropped. Naturally let go because I realized why it hadn't worked yet. And about a week later, I just got this idea, another out of nowhere idea, to do a different Google search term. And I don't even remember what it was, but the first article that came up was, if you have eye bags and you're getting enough sleep, you're drinking enough water, you've used creams and concealers and it makes it look worse, you don't have eye bags. And I was like, what? This is exactly what's happening to me. And I'd not seen any of this information previously because I had like blocked it from even seeing it. Turns out when your sinuses swell, it creates the illusion of eye bags. And that's what had happened to me. And I had been out of state for 8 months. I came back. It was overnight because I was in a new environment with seasonal allergies, blah, blah, blah. So within 1 hour of reading the article, I went to the store. I bought a decongestant, took it, poof, gone.
That's gone. Yeah, that's so funny because that's literally like my story as well. It's just like it changed so fast.
Right. And so that's why we wanted to share this story. So yours is about getting your job, right?
Yeah. So my story is about how I manifested my job that I have now. So basically, it's kind of like similar to yours. So at the beginning of June, I was applying to a bunch of different jobs and it was fine. I was getting interviews, but then every interview that I got, I just didn't like. I just wasn't feeling the company. I just didn't like it. So then that was just making me feel frustrated for literally the entire summer from like June to August. So 3 months for me. I was just feeling super like frustrated and annoyed. And I kept telling myself like, this isn't going to work. I'm not going to get a good job, blah, blah, blah. So focusing on the problem instead of like what I actually wanted. Right. So then I found 2 jobs that I liked, the one I have now and this other one. So when I found those, I did like a little visualization and I imagined that, you know, they contacted me and it worked out. And I wasn't attached to either of those jobs. I just thought it would be cool, like if it worked out. Went back to my crappy vibration of just like, oh, this isn't working, being frustrated. So obviously like nothing's gonna happen if you just constantly focus on the problem. You have to shift yourself back. Right. So that's just me like the whole summer, like seriously just being a little bitch the entire time. And then just like you, it happened so quickly. So one day at the end of August, my mom just like brought up this idea of me doing my master's, which I was never going to do my master's because what I want to do doesn't require that. But I don't know why it triggered me, but it made me think, I guess, like if I keep being frustrated, it's not actually going, like nothing's going to happen. So that night she told me that, I just released all of my resistance and I did a lot of like what you talk about in your videos about self-soothing. So I was telling myself, it's just going to work out. Like, it's going to be fine. The right job will come at the right time. Like, I was telling myself all these good things. And I just felt so much better. I slept that night so good, like for the first time in like 3 months. And then I woke up the next morning, or like I woke up around noon, and then I checked my email, and it was from the job that I have now, like asking to set up an interview. So I just think it's so crazy. The whole summer, because they took like a month to contact me, and usually I feel like you get an interview after like a week or two, almost a month, if not a little more. And then the night I like shifted my vibration, that's when it happened. So that's just so weird.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted to actually film this for you guys to show, you know, we both know how to manifest. We thought we were doing it correctly. We were frustrated, and then this is really normal, and it's actually a pretty quick fix. And you just got to get more aware and be really kind to yourself about it.
Yeah.
And it will shift. And when it shifts, it seems really fast. A lot of people, that's why they say, oh, I let go, or I was like, oh, forget it, or something, and then it manifests. It's because you've cleared that focus on the problem momentarily.
You're constantly focusing on the problem, then you can't even like see the answer. You know how people say like the answer's like right in front of you, but you can't see it because you're just blocking yourself.
That is the answer for my eye bags was there the whole time.
Yeah.
But that's what, so it's like, even though it's there, my consciousness was so focused on the problem that it wouldn't allow me to even come up with the right ideas to look for what the solution was. So that's why sometimes people are like, when is it going to happen?
Yeah.
You know, it's when you kind of have like a clarity that you have to actually focus on what you want while reducing as much resistance as possible. You don't have to be perfect at it, but because I mean, you didn't know that was going to happen for you, right?
No, like I did not expect the next day. I was honestly shocked. And then I like looked back and I was like, whoa, like the law of attraction is just crazy. Even if you're trying to manifest something for so long, like I'm still trying to manifest something that's taken me a while to work through the resistance. Like it can happen. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. That's perfect that you said that. It doesn't matter how long you've been working on something. It can still happen, even if you've had a ton of resistance. I have a video or two, I'll put them in my description bar on my channel below, where I mention like a lot of my manifestations I've had resistance on. Now, I don't necessarily get the manifestation while I'm in resistance, so that can happen, but it's more about accepting it. Like you didn't solve the problem, you just soothed yourself about it.
Yeah, everything is about energy. So like if you can shift your energy to you feeling better without actually like solving anything.
Prove to yourself, because it's easy for us to sit here and say it, but when you do it and you experience it, you're like, oh, like then you start to.
Because actually, like in the summer, I was trying to like watch law of attraction videos, inspire me to like stop being frustrated, but I wasn't actually applying anything. It wasn't until like my mom said that to me that everything just kind of clicked in. I don't know. It was so random.
Yeah. So if you're out there and you're manifesting and you're in resistance and you're like, what am I doing wrong? Keep at it, but actually start, you know, soothing yourself about your resistance, and, you know, apply it. When you and practice with little things, the more manifestations you have, the easier it'll be to identify what might be a little bit off in your bigger ones.
Yeah. Just chill. You'll get your.
Yeah. It's going to happen. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Or worry, whatever.
Yeah, you can still worry. You can still like freak out. Maybe have like your moment to freak out.
Yeah, you can have your moment. That's fine. Yeah. Cool. Well, you know, I'm so glad we had a chance to talk, and I hope this really helps you guys. So.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye.